News Talk 640 AM and now at 103.5 HD2. Your information crossroads. WFNC.
News Talk 640 WFNC. Out of the frying pan into the fire. We just left the Cool Springs folks out. But then, Kirk, I appreciate you being on time because those women that were just in here came in on the hotline. Kenny, what was that? How are you today, sir?
I'm great.
You know Ashante.
I do know them both.
Yeah.
Know them both well.
Good people. How
They're
are you
working
doing
hard
today?
for this community, and we appreciate all they do.
And this weekend is Father's Day.
It is.
You and the boy are doing what? How's that going to work?
I don't know. We're trying to figure that out. Depending on he tells me what he wants to do, but it's my day, so we'll have to see what we do. Maybe we'll get to
and his name
swing
is
the golf club a little bit.
Yeah, Gray. Is Gray?
Grayson Joseph.
And so it is a special time for every family this coming weekend. A lot of times fathers get the short end of the stick because we get collect phone calls. At least back in the day, that's it used to be. Call dad, collect. Mom gets roses and everything like that. And not many people think about the job of the father, but it is an important job that families have, and I'm sure you're experiencing that yourself.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience, and I'm blessed to be able to have the opportunity. So he is an amazing boy who is growing up too fast.
I was talking with Fawn Doherty. I'm going to have him in probably on Thursday. This is a special time for those of us who are fathers, but it's an extremely difficult time for fathers who have lost a child. Yeah. And so Fawn is going to talk about that a little bit and the impact of losing his daughter Genesis, but the fact that he's not letting her death be in vain in terms of his campaign to make guns safer in our community. All right, talking about safety in the community, what do you have on tap that's going on that we need to know about?
Well, so last night, we had our meeting last night. It was a longer meeting, public comment period, public hearings. We had a few public hearings. Several people spoke at our public comment period. But we did the County Commission board last night. We passed a 6-month moratorium on data centers or on data center operations. So that was passed last night.
Before you move on from that, explain. I think we need to make sure people understand because there's been a lot of this discussion between the county commissioners and the city of Fayetteville on what we're doing with this in terms of the data centers coming and getting information that's needed to make a decision.
Look, the county has been very deliberate. We haven't moved one way or the other, or flip-flopped or anything like that. We've been very deliberate. We've had public hearings. We've listened to the community. We've listened to our economic developers who've come in, talked to us about data centers. But what we realize is as we're moving through the process to put guardrails in place through an ordinance, you need to have some protections. All the moratorium does is provide us that protection. So Marshall Faircloth asked a question last night: has there been any companies filed for permits to this date? And the answer from our manager was no. And so what this does, it allows us 6 months to go through this process of an ordinance, get input from our joint planning board, get input from the community, get input from our staff, look at what an ordinance would look like, look at the things around water and noise and the grid and all these different things that have been brought up. Look at what the General Assembly is doing, quite frankly. They're putting in some, there's a bill sitting in the Senate right now. So let's see what they're going to do. It gives us a time to put the guardrails in place for our community. What this moratorium is not saying is we're closed for business. What this is doing is it's allowing companies to know that they come here, this is the expectation, and we're really trying to provide tailwinds and not headwinds for companies that come in not knowing what the expectations are, not knowing what the guardrails are. Well, so we'll take the next 6 months to work through that, or the next several months to work through that.
And those guardrails are starting, as you mentioned, to be put in place by the state. We've seen other communities that have data centers now, other counties that already have them here that have whatever guardrails they have in place. I'm sure the county is looking at all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. The county has been very lockstep in our process. We wanted to make sure we've had 2 different public hearings around this. We've engaged with our community. We've done a couple town halls where we're budget issues, but it also opened it up for citizens to talk about data center issues or concerns or positive as well, support of it. So we've been very, lockstep in how we've moved through this. We've been very thoughtful in the process, and now it's time for our staffs to begin the work on the ordinance. We've directed our staff to look at what the city's doing, make sure we're in collaboration. The other thing that we do at the county level is through the Joint Planning Board, we're engaged with the other municipalities. So now they can get input on what's happened with the ordinance, because if the other municipalities in the county want to adopt an ordinance, they have to do it through their process as well. But we're going to give them a framework where they're going to get input. The Joint Planning Board gives us that opportunity to receive that community input from across all the municipalities, because that board has representatives from all municipalities on it.
Well, and we look at this as a nuance. Something's coming to the community. It's happening across the country. And then in talking with the mayor, for example, we talked about the Comores issue, where the county didn't get on board with Comores, and then it went to Bladen County, and now we are paying for the cleanup, and we didn't have any control over making sure what they were doing because it was in the county.
I don't know about that. I don't know if you could say that about a lot of different things. I think what we got to focus on is what's in front of us, what's the here and now. There's opportunities that's out there. What we can't say is, we can't deny any industry coming here, and that's not what we're doing.
No, and
we're not saying no data centers. We're just saying we're going to put some ordinances in place, just like we're going to put ordinances in places around different industries that we see coming over time. I can't speak to what happened years ago when Comores was here.
But we have to, be only in as much as, and I keep bringing this up with you, with the mayor, with the city manager. Who has the crystal ball? Who had the crystal ball on Ann Street landfill? Who had the crystal ball on Comores? Who had the crystal ball on the concrete company that's built right off of Ramsey Street that's providing a lot of dust? So someone has to have a crystal ball, and that's what I think. That's what the moratorium does. It doesn't provide the crystal ball, but it gives you an opportunity to take a look at some of these other projects. You can't just turn it away and say
we don't need to look at what. We don't need to look at Comores. What the moratorium does is allow. Now, I'm not saying we don't need to look at Comores, because we've got some direct action with Comores. But as we're talking about a data center ordinance, an ordinance around data centers, the moratorium just allows us to make sure that no permits are being put in place before we get an ordinance in place. We want to understand the guardrails that this community wants to have in place, that needs to have in place to make sure that we have the type of industry in this community that we want. The moratorium gives us that legal framework to be able to protect this community, so there are no permits being issued, or there's no forward progress until we put this ordinance in place.
Well, yeah, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah. This connection to Comores. I mean, if you want to talk about Comores, I've been talking about Comores and working on the water issue for 8 years since 2018 when I ran for Senate and got involved and was in the Senate. So there is an issue around Comores. There is an issue around our contamination. There's an issue around what we need to do to have clean, safe, regulated drinking water. We need partners at the table. So if we want to have a conversation around Comores and the impact, let's talk about how we're working together to solve that. The things that haven't been done for the last 10 or 15 years that we're now doing. But on the ordinance, I get the connection you're trying to make. My point is we need to work with our planners, our professionals, our staff, our attorneys, and the community to shape the type of ordinance we want for the industry that is coming to that would potentially come to the community.
Well, again, I keep saying crystal ball, and it may be falling on deaf ears, but I don't know how you look at something like a data center and not look at the history in our county of decisions that were not good decisions for the county in terms of where the Crown was built, where the jail was built. All these issues are planning issues.
That's right.
And so
I don't disagree with you there, but I don't think that. Anyway, we can
we
can move on.
Again, the ordinance, the moratorium is in place. It's going to give you the opportunity to take the time to put the framework in place.
That's right.
And I keep saying, so we don't have mistakes like we've had on other projects. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, that's right. And I just want to point out, the city and the county have, we're both looking at the same things. We're just taking a different path to how to get there. Nobody needs to compare the two, look at the two. The county had a process. The city, under the mayor's leadership, has a different process. Our board had a different process for what we went through and where we are today. And so, the biggest thing we need to look at is how our community will, how we will shape these guardrails and these protections, as well as allowing businesses like data center businesses to be able to know the expectations when they come into a community.
Well, and you have people who protest this, and I don't think you're going to change the minds of folks who say we shouldn't have this in our community at all. But as you mentioned, a moratorium doesn't stop this business from coming, and that's not the nature of that tool. And so, who are the winners and losers in this? I think the overall public wins by everybody taking a deep breath and looking back at this and moving on.
I mean, you just made a very valid point, and you said something earlier too. The decisions we make across all these municipalities as an elected official, the decisions you make impact and ripple towards the future, and that's why we have to be very thoughtful and deliberate about how you're investing in public education, so that we can have a strong community with strong schools, how we're investing in infrastructure, how we're looking at things like ordinance like this, not just this, but other ordinances, how we are, regulating, where development goes. How does development go across our county? Where does it go? How do we do that with our land use plans and things like that? So you're exactly right. The decisions we make today impact. And quite frankly, we're living in some of those decisions that were made or not made years ago, and we're playing catch up right now.
Well,
when it comes to things like schools
that's
and
what I wanted to talk
water and
about.
sewer and infrastructure.
All right, and we said the point, you build a county location for business to come, a municipal park, and you build it and folks will come. We have that down on Highway 210. We have it up at Fort Bragg near the military industrial park up there. That's reaping some benefits. We see some activity there. You got a building, have to be futuristic in what it is. We said we didn't want a chicken plant here. There's a big fight about that, and so it went down to another county. Those jobs went there, but those weren't the type of jobs that the county was looking for back then. But we're still looking for industry and things to come here, and our economic folks are doing a pretty good job at recruiting.
And we got a great thing to celebrate last week over at the medical school, and you had an interview on it yesterday. $72 million of impact, over 800 jobs, being one of 150 across the nation. That's putting Cumberland on the map. We're keeping people here. We're creating these healthcare pathways where people can start out in our school system, in our public school system, work their way up through FTCC or FSU or Methodist, end up at a medical school, never leaving Cumberland County, and helping our access to healthcare, access to our doctor desert that we have in our community. This builds on that residency program that was started many, many years ago, back in 2015-16 timeframe, and allows us to keep that medical professionals here in our community. Those are the wins. We're seeing a lot of wins. We're beginning to, that's a decision that was started years ago that's going to have a ripple effect on our community and our region for years to come.
I've talked with you. I'm like say I'm beating this data center down. We're getting near the end of the time here, and it always happens. And we easy could talk for an hour.
Oh yeah.
In terms of what's going on in the community. I want to make sure you have an opportunity to drive home any points, especially going into Juneteenth this Friday. We have Father's Day this weekend. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so just a couple things also from last night. We took another step forward in our unhoused support center, still on track. It's not delayed, it's not paused. We took some good forward movement last night. We approved the contract for the operator. We also took the next steps with the architect, the construction manager at risk, and approved some schematic designs as well as we continue to move that project forward, which we know will provide over 100 beds in our community, which are woefully needed. And then we continue our discussions on the budget. Our next meeting is on the 18th of June. As we continue to work through that, we're hopeful we'll get to a budget, shortly thereafter. We still have a couple things to work through and some decisions that this board needs to make as we look at what we need to fund and what's a priority in our community.
All right, KIRK deVIERE, the chairman of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. Always a pleasure to talk with you on Tuesday. Heading to Father's Day. Enjoy yourself this weekend. And we'll have an opportunity to talk about the school budget, for example, because that's the front and center. Some changes there in terms of, building requests and maintenance requirements and things like that. And a lot of good discussion still ahead as you pound the budget process through till the end.
And we are, and we continue to, school funding of schools is a priority for this community, as well as funding our infrastructure, as well as funding our health and human services and our public safety. So we'll continue to have those discussions, but I do want to take a moment. School board chairwoman Judy Musgrave passed away this weekend, and just a huge loss for our community, just a champion for our children, for the educators, and just the public education system in our community, and just a longtime friend. So just want to send out thoughts for her.
Hey, you had that, and Billy King gone as well.
We've had a lot of giants pass away recently.
Yeah. Well, look, we appreciate your leadership and your service, and we'll see you next Tuesday. You're listening to News Talk 640. We're at WFNC.
Tuesday will be mainly cloudy with a high of 85. Tonight will be cloudy with a stray shower and a low of 68, while Wednesday will have clearing skies and a high of 94. After warming up on Wednesday, Thursday will be another hot day flirting with triple-digit heat. Showers and thunderstorms return by the end of the week. That's your Fayetteville forecast. I'm CBS 17 meteorologist Rachel Dunzing.
Rachel, thank you so much. 74 right now. Fayetteville, Hope Mills, and Spring Lake. You're listening to News Talk 640. We're WFNC.
Fayetteville's local news source. News Talk 640 WFNC. Now in high def at 103.5 HD2.
I'm Charles Evans, candidate for Cumberland County Commissioner at Large. As your public servant, it will be my responsibility to work for the betterment of our community for each citizen of this great county. As your past county commissioner at large, I have done just that and will continue to put each of our citizens first. I'm Charles Evans, asking